interference at the Supreme Court saying something went wrong below and they want to reverse it. You don't get to just go to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court gets 9,000 or so cert petitions every single year, requests for review, and they take 80 or fewer cases. So I don't think the Supreme Court took this case just to give two thumbs up. I think the Supreme Court took this case to vindicate the First Amendment.
I'm Chris Woodward. Target says it's scaling back corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. DEI policies have come under fire in recent years, and they also have the attention of Donald Trump at the federal level. Target also said it won't renew the DEI goals it typically sets every 3 years. In other corporate news, PepsiCo's website says that it aims to reach all consumers authentically and will be viewpoint neutral with respect to political or religious status or views. An email shared with Fox News Digital says PepsiCo added the language to its site after Alliance Defending Freedom filed a resolution on behalf of a shareholder at PepsiCo. AAA says the average price for a gallon of gas is $3.13, up from a year ago at $3.09. That's all our time for now. You can go to afn.net to find more there. For American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. AFA aims to evangelize the lost and disciple the believer. We aim to strengthen biblical marriages and equip parents to raise godly children.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association.
From the heart of our nation's capital in Washington, D.C., bringing compelling interviews, insightful analysis, taking you beyond the headlines and sound bites into conversations with our nation's leaders and newsmakers, all from a biblical worldview. Sitting in for Tony is today's host, Jody Heiss.
Well, good afternoon. Hope you have had a fantastic week. Welcome to this Friday edition of Washington Watch. I am your Friday host, Jody Heiss, the Senior Vice President here at the Family Resource Council and President of FRC Action. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a lot coming your way. As you probably are keenly aware by now, thousands of pro-lifers converged on Washington, D.C. today for the 52nd annual March for Life. And before taking to the streets, they heard from President Donald Trump, who delivered remarks virtually.
In my second term, we will again stand proudly for families and for life. We will protect the historic gains we have made and stop the radical Democrat push for a federal right to unlimited abortion on demand up to the moment of birth and even after birth.
Well, it was cold, it was frigid today in Washington, D.C., but what was the real atmosphere like for this year's March for Life? Washington Stand reporter Sarah Holliday will join me in just a moment to share what she saw and heard firsthand. Also speaking at this year's March for Life was Vice President J.D. Vance, who was there in person. And in his remarks, he celebrated the president's pardoning of 23 pro-lifers who were unjustly targeted by the previous Biden administration's weaponized Justice Department.
No longer will the federal government direct FBI raids on the homes of people like Mark Houck and other Catholic and Christian activists who are fighting for the unborn every single day. And no longer will our government throw pro-life protesters and activists, elderly, grandparents, or anybody else in prison. It stopped on Monday, and we're not going to let it come back to this country.
Wow, so what's it going to take to stop this type of thing from ever happening again? Well, Congressman Chip Roy will join me later to discuss that. And yesterday, the House passed the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, which failed to advance in the Senate. But how many Democrats voted for it? Well, you'll be interested to find out. Congressman Andy Harris will be joining me in just a few moments about that. And then in international news, the Hamas terror group will be releasing some more hostages tomorrow. And while this is certainly cause for rejoicing, the heavy cost of the deal that Israel agreed to has certainly raised some concerns. And geopolitical commentator Eric Stakelbeck of TBN will be joining me about that. And then later in the program, we'll be joined by David Clausen for our weekly Biblical Worldview segment. So we have a lot coming your way today. You don't want to miss it. We've got, so much. Let's go ahead and get started. Today, as I mentioned a while ago, was the 52nd annual March for Life. It took place all across the country, as well as here in Washington, D.C., literally drawing thousands of marchers who braved the frigid temperatures to stand in the gap for the preborn. Washington Stand reporter Sarah Holliday was there in person to experience the march, and she joins me now to tell us a little bit of her experience. Sarah, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you for having me, Jody.
Well, I hope you've thawed out a little bit by now, but listen real quickly. I sat back and I wanted to ask you this, and then I want to get real quickly your overall response. But was this the first time ever that both the president and vice president had comments to share for March for Life?
From my understanding, that just might be the case. I believe Trump actually in 2020 was the first sitting president to attend the march in person.
Yeah, I recall that vividly. All right, real quickly, Sarah, what was your experience? Well, I know it's frigid, cold, but what was the atmosphere? What was it like for the people who were there?
Well, it was cold, but, it was remarkably sunny. And as President Trump stated, people's hearts were warm and our spirits were high. The atmosphere was just joyful. I would even say electric. I can't help but wonder.
Just remember that guy at the crossroad asking to touch him. I don't know, it's a heart failure. Over at his side. But Lord, you know everything, Lord. I pray for the salvation. I pray for touch his healing, Lord, healing right now, Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I want to switch over now. I want to continue this discussion on the life issue from Capitol Hill and the perspective there, specifically coming from Congressman Andy Harris, who represents Maryland's 1st District. He's the chairman, by the way, of the House Freedom Caucus, and also chair of the GOP Doctors Caucus. He's got his hands in a little bit of everything. Previously, he was a physician at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and so most of us refer to him as Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, welcome back to Washington Watch. So good to have you.
It's great to be with you, Jody.
Okay, so, the March for Life has been organized every year since the Roe v. Wade decision. And while certainly Dobbs' decision may have been tossed into the dustbin of history, pro-life, there is still a lot of work to be done for the pro-life cause. Wouldn't you agree?
That's absolutely right, Jody. Now it might be a state-by-state fight, but we're in it, and in the end, we will show everyone, and we will prevail, because the fact of the matter is that it is a human life. It does need to be protected, and abortion does take a human life.
So there were a lot of folks. I just had a brief conversation. Don't know if you were able to hear it with Sarah Holliday, who's one of our reporters who's there in person. The weather was frigid, cold to say the least. The thousands were there. What message do you hope is going to be sent to the rest of the country here again on another day of marching for life?
Well, the message is pretty clear. We stand for human life. That despite the Dobbs decision, many states, as you know, have legalized abortion even in their constitution. But again, it may take us another 50 years to get these efforts in the states overturned, but we will prevail. We will keep marching, and we will prevail.
I love that confidence, Dr. Harris. Thank you for inspiring us with that, and I believe it. I mean, life must prevail at the end of the day. I did want to throw this across your way and get your reaction. Democrats don't seem to be getting the message that you just shared at all. And it's a message that's shared from the majority of Americans, but none of the Democrats in the Senate voted for the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. What in the world does this tell us about where the Democrats are on this issue?
Jody, it just tells you how extreme they are. Even in the House, only one Republican, Henry Cuellar from Texas, voted with us. But again, this is an issue, you know, the vast majority of Americans agree. If you botch an abortion and the baby is born alive, society has the right to protect that life. And again, the vast majority of Democrats in the Congress disagree. I don't think the vast majority of Democrats, registered Democrats around the country, disagree. But the vast majority of elected Democrats do.
What is causing this disconnect? Because I agree, this was not a strong pro-life bill. This is a bill that said if a baby is born alive, it is there in the hands of the doctor or the mother or whomever. The baby is alive there in that hospital room. A botched abortion, the baby is alive, and Democrats voted to kill the baby. There is no way, in my mind, the average Democrat voter across this country supports that kind of thing. What is the disconnect, do you think, with the federal National Democratic Party and average people across the country?
Well, it's more than just the national Democrats. It's Democrats in state houses, the ones who have voted to put these constitutional amendments on the state constitutions that allow abortion right up to birth.
Yeah, good point. Any idea what's causing this? I mean, how can there be this big of a disconnect? I mean, we're talking about a live baby. What makes this not? Well, of course, abortion does the same thing, but a born baby, they're murdered.
Look, these elected Democrats are beholden to the most radical wing of the party. It's not only true on this, it's true on other. It's true on immigration. It's true on other issues. Again, the American people look. That's what Donald Trump was president.
Well, let me shift gears to you again with the pardoning of the pro-lifers. I thought this was a fantastic step forward and a huge statement, frankly, overall. But unlike the previous administration, this administration is not going to be going after pro-lifers. And of course, that was made clear. We had a little clip a moment ago of President Trump pardoning 23 pro-lifers. Tell me your thoughts about that.
Look, I think it was a great pardon. I was shocked when the Biden administration went after these pro-life protesters violating their First Amendment rights. Again, you'll have Chip Roy on later. Look, Chip has a bill, and it's filed in the Senate as well, to eliminate that federal law that doesn't allow people to exert their First Amendment rights outside abortion clinics.
Well, you're right. Chip is going to be joining us here in just a little bit. What more are you anticipating or hopeful that you will see from this administration as it relates to pro-life causes?
Well, the most obvious thing is to stop the funding of abortion, especially abortion overseas. We send thousands and millions of dollars to organizations that actually also provide abortion overseas, just like Planned Parenthood here. We send money to them and they provide abortion. We're doing that overseas. And I hope we could actually possibly eliminate funding for Planned Parenthood. That would be a huge step.
That would be a huge step. And also, doing away with the FDA approving the shipping of abortion drugs, the abortion pill, across state lines. What is your take on whether or not some of this defunding can occur, be it internationally, domestically, or even here with the FDA and the mailing of the abortion pill?
Well, the international defunding, I think, is going to occur. I think that it's going to be more defunding domestically. With regards to the interstate shipping, look, Jody, the problem is that what Planned Parenthood will do and the people they conspire with are just going to set up a place in every state to ship the drug. I don't think that's going to be a solution. We just have to, again, we have to tell all Americans that we have to remind them that this is a human life, and whether you take it in an abortion